What's the difference between a good coach and a great coach? You might think it comes down to accolades. How many swimmers performed a certain time, qualified for a specific competition, made it to the Olympics, won a national title, won a world title. And while these things are important, they are not what determines a great coach. As a coach, you have a lot of responsibilities. You're essentially a role model for your athletes. Whether you're coaching a 7-year-old who just started swimming or a 17-year-old trying to qualify for a certain event or get a college scholarship, or even a 37-year-old master swimmer who's just getting back into it. Not only do you have to organize the workouts, but you have to motivate swimmers. You have to write letters of recommendation, deal with parents, deal with a board, clean the pool deck, and maybe even deal with pool issues. And you do all of these things on a shoestring budget. Heck, maybe you're the one managing the budget, and maybe you're the one handling the budget and you're not even getting paid. You're a volunteer. So then why do it? As a coach, you have the opportunity to share your knowledge with the next generation, to motivate and to inspire the next class of swimmers, and to empower them to swim for the rest of their lives. And even with all of these challenges, you stick with it because you know how amazing it feels for the athlete to reach the wall, go a best time, see that smile on their face, and you have the self-belief as a coach that you were able to empower that athlete to reach their goals. By the end of this masterclass, you'll not only have the skills developed to help athletes reach their full potential, but to help you be the best coach possible. I want to show you how to reach your full potential as a swim coach while managing with the parents, balancing the budget, and all the other responsibilities they have to do both on the pool deck and on the dry side administratively. So whether you just started coaching or you've been on the pool deck for decades, you've come to the right place. I've coached over 5,000 workouts in my career as a coach, and over the last decade in building my swim pro, I've had the opportunity to meet with and speak with coaches from all over the world. I've learned so much, and I'm still learning every day, and I'm so excited to share what I've learned with you guys. My goal with this masterclass is to give you the right frameworks and mindset so you can be the best coach possible. So get comfy, bookmark this link, and share it with a coach, because this masterclass is broken up into 10 different sections. And I have a special bonus for you if you stick around to the very end. So let's get started and dive right in. If you want to be a great coach, then you need to understand the thing that you're teaching. Now, you don't have to be the fastest swimmer, of course not, but you need to know what makes a fast swimmer. You need to understand the fundamentals of technique. You need to understand how to produce fast swimming. It's not enough to just know the technique of the 4 competitive strokes. You need to understand biomechanics, physics, seasonal planning, energy systems, and a whole bunch of other things. Because after all, if you don't understand these fundamentals of fast swimming, how can you expect to teach and coach your athletes to swim fast? In order to be a great coach, you need to understand the fundamentals of our sport. And that starts with the 3 universal truths of swimming. Because if you don't follow these basic principles, everything else when it comes to teaching technique or training or methodology really doesn't matter. So the first principle, the first universal truth, is that water is 800 times more dense than air. Now, if you followed me on social media, you're probably familiar with this expression, and it's really just a reinforcing concept that when you're moving through the water, it is different than moving through the air. The technical components of teaching someone weightlifting or running or even doing a push-up are different when you're trying to teach something in the water. Because remember, the water is 800 times more dense than air. And once you understand this first universal truth, it does not go away. Now we can talk about, well, how do you actually swim faster? So if we know that the water is so dense and it's so difficult to move through this medium, we have to decrease drag. So the fastest way to get faster at swimming and to teach your athletes is the concept of decreasing drag. When you're thinking about how do we incorporate drills to teach body position and a lot of other technical things we'll talk about in just a few minutes, you have to rewind, go back to these 3 universal truths. These are the foundation, and we know that water is 800 times more dense than air. The only way that you can swim faster is by decreasing drag, because we understand that the water is just so dense to try and move through. So that is the most efficient way, efficient use of our time to get faster at swimming. And then number 3 is that if you want to swim faster, you have to increase propulsion. So when we think about being a coach, and there's so many duties, so many things we have to do, we got to write the workout, we need to think about the drills that we want our athletes to achieve. You have to take a step back and think, are these drills and is this workout helping us understanding that these are the 3 universal truths of swimming? Because if the drill we're doing is not going to help us decrease drag, if it's not going to help us increase propulsion, or it's not doing some combination of both of those things, then why are you doing that drill? How does it impact the next point of the workout, of the week, of the cycle, of the season? And a lot of times I see this in that coaches get caught up in the minute details and they forget about why they're doing what they do. Remember, your goal is to create an environment for your athlete to swim fast, to enjoy their experience. And if you can communicate these 3 universal truths and take a step back as a coach and evaluate what you're telling your students, what you're telling your athletes, make sure it aligns with these 3 universal truths. Now let's look at the fundamentals of technique. I have a few different elements laid out here, but the best way is to just visualize it. So I'm going to go ahead and draw the surface of the water, and I'm going to draw a swimmer with another color, and we're going to talk about each of these different components. If I can open the marker, there we go. So let's draw a swimmer's head right here. We got a swimmer, we got their body, there's their legs, feet, beautiful, I'm an artist, thank you very much. And there's the arms, boom, and boom. Actually, they don't have a good high elbow catch. We'll talk about that next. Excellent. Now, the number 1 principle I want to talk about is body position. If you don't have a good body position, remembering our principles and universal truths, you're just going to create a lot of drag. So when we're thinking about how do we get a swimmer faster, regardless of the stroke, we're going to focus on freestyle. It comes down to your body position and your head position. So if you look at our swimmer right here, this is a poor head position and body position. Instead of having the head mostly above the surface, you can clearly see when the head comes up, the legs go down. Remember, we want to minimize drag. If I were to draw the displacement from the surface of the water all the way to the deepest point where the foot is, right, this is how much we are displacing in the water. You think about a speedboat or a fish, right, or a torpedo. They're so small, just cutting through the water like a knife. So you want to really minimize this to something like that. So instead of the head being completely above the surface of the water, we want to think about having a neutral head position, about halfway underneath the surface. Now, a lot of swimmers, especially if they're a beginner, you can but you can improve pretty dramatically just by focusing on the head position. Now, body position, there's actually 2 ways to improve body position. One of them is you just improve what the head is doing. But that's the easy one, because you can have a great head position and someone's legs are still going to be sinking in the water. We're going to talk about that in just a second. Let me finish drawing this improved body position, if you will. So this is the new head, and then that means the body is going to be somewhere like this. There's the leg, and there's the other leg. Beautiful, and there's the feet. Of course, we have feet. And the catch, the above the water, is about the same thing. And below the water, we have an early vertical form. We'll talk about that next. But first, you can see the displacement. Do you see how I was able to dramatically shrink the amount of resistance coming? And that's what our body position is. That's our target body position. Now we're going to talk about, actually, before I talk about the pull, I want to dive into what I said about, well, how do you improve the body position if it's not going to come from the head? Because there are swimmers that they are looking down, but their legs are just dragging through the water. And you can see this in every stroke, but especially in freestyle, it's a faster stroke. So the faster you move, the higher your legs are going to go. Then why are people sinking? A lot of it has to do with how the pull is being initiated. So when we think about the pull, you reach out, your fingertips enter the water. If you're applying pressure down, if this arm was straight, the black, let's look at the black. If this hand is applying pressure down, let me use red, this is down pressure. So basically you're pressing the entire body up, and that's gonna sink the leg. So even if your head is perfect and your eyes are looking down compared to this black first drawing, eyes are looking forward, legs are sinking, even if we improve that head position, it doesn't matter if the hands are applying force to push up. So the chest comes up and the legs come down. So it's really, this is the harder thing to try and improve, but you really have to get your swimmers to understand you don't want to put that pressure down. You want to get your fingertips to come down and get that high elbow catch. Right here, this is what we call our early vertical forearm. And that's this part right here. I'm drawing it in the dotted line right there. This part is the forearm and it is vertical, and we're trying to get that as early as possible, hence the name early vertical forearm. So when we're thinking about our pull and our catch, this is very important. And it's important that we're not pushing down with too much force too early. A lot of things can improve this, like sculling and just being more aware of this, even using different equipment. We'll talk about that a little bit later. When you use the right equipment and you put enough emphasis on this, you're really going to improve the body position, which goes back to the 3 universal truths. Water is 800 times more dense than air. We want to decrease drag. All of this is focused on decreasing drag. Yes, the pull is going to increase propulsion, because if we have a good pull, we're pulling ourselves, and that's the kind of force we're creating. But if you put the force down, you're just gonna lift the upper body, and this applies to every single stroke. This is not something that, I know we're focusing on freestyle right now, but it's actually more dramatic in the other strokes. I know a lot of you guys are really focused on coaching freestyle first. Obviously, it's the thing that you train the most, but the slower the stroke, the more dramatic these things are. Front crawl freestyle is the fastest stroke. So a couple things come with that. One of them is that it's the easiest to try and teach and learn and improve upon, but it's also difficult because when you transition to like breaststroke, you know, your legs could be very deep under the water, creating a lot of drag. But these fundamentals of technique apply to all the strokes. Now let's talk about the breathing. We talked about these other 3 things. Let's talk about the breathing. Same concept. When we're breathing, we do not want the head coming up because it kind of breaks everything we just talked about. So when we're breathing, in freestyle specifically, we're keeping one eye and one ear in the water. I'll play some good B-roll here. You can see what it looks like in slow motion to really focus on having a stable body position. And if you slow down, if you rest too much here, same thing's gonna happen. Your legs are basically going to sink, even if your head position is good, because the only way you're balancing is by applying pressure right over here. So that comes into rhythm and balance, which we'll talk about next. I want to talk about kick just for a little bit, because this is one of the overemphasized things in swimming. Now, depending on who you're talking to, who you're coaching, you can have actually a variation in how much emphasis you put on the kick. If you're coaching adults, fitness swimmers, or even a swimmer who's just getting started in swimming, you do not want to focus too much on the kick, because the kick is there just for balance. Now, as you develop your athlete into a more proficient swimmer, it becomes really important to have a strong kick that drives rotation. Because what you don't want to have happen is your upper body doing one thing and your lower body doing another thing. They need to be connected. And that's what we're talking about when it comes to balance. Because if you just have a really strong pull and a really strong kick and they're working independent of each other, there's no rotational drive to connect the core from your fingertips on one end to your toes on the other, well then it's not going to be as efficient and not as fast as someone who's able to connect both of them. That's why a lot of drills that focus on incorporating your total body, even dry land out of the water to engage your core. One of my favorites is swimming with one fin, one paddle, opposite, and exchanging. Really get that cross-body connection. So there's 2 kinds of balance. One is the rotational balance I just talked about, and the other is what's happening on the front end and what's happening on the back end. It's all one vehicle, it's all one boat, one vessel moving in one direction. So make sure they are connected. But again, what I said is all the strokes have these same foundational principles. We need to break it apart. When you're trying to teach technique, kind of put a check mark here. Is the body position good? Is the head position good, which informs the body position? How are we looking on the catch? How are we looking on the kick? What does timing look like? You know, I can put that right here. This is timing and balance, timing, and how does breathing look? When you put all of those together, you're gonna have a fast swimmer. Now that you understand the fundamentals of technique, we need to talk about an actual swim workout. How do you write a swim workout, and what are the components that make a good workout versus a great workout? Now, what I have listed over here are a few of the core things that every workout needs to at least consider having. Now, some of this might be pretty obvious, but I think it's really important to pay attention to the nuanced details that I'm about to dive into. So you have a warm-up, preset, main set, post set, and cool down. Now, if you're not familiar with what each of these are, basically it's the flow of the workout. You start with the warm-up to get the blood flowing. Then you'll have a preset, which will get you set up for the main set. And then you might have a post set before the cool down where you flush it all out and you're done. Now, every workout doesn't have to have every component in there. So when you write a workout, it might not need to be labeled preset or post set, but you should at least have the elements that go underneath each of those inside of every single workout. So let me explain. Let's say you have a focus, right? Focus is important right here. Skipped over that almost. The focus of the workout is breaststroke speed. So if you're focused on training breaststroke and you want to train it fast, whether you have a preset or not labeled in the workout, before you get to the main set, maybe you do it in the warm-up, maybe it's the first part of the main set, you need to warm up the breaststroke stroke, the breaststroke kick. You need to elevate the heart rate if it's a speed-oriented set. You need to add resistance if that's the thing that you're trying to do. So if your focus is aerobic freestyle, well then you don't need to swim any breaststroke before you get to the main set, which has the aerobic freestyle. This is one of the biggest mistakes I see swimmers and coaches make. They build a workout and they don't have the preset or even the warm-up correspond to the main set. Now this is a fundamental mistake that you're making because the whole point of doing a warm-up and a preset is to get you ready for the main set. Oh, and by the way, let's do a post set that has nothing to do with the main set or the preset, right? That doesn't make any sense. You need to train your body to perform. You have to get your body ready for performance. And the only way you can do that is by setting yourself up to perform at the end of the main set or in the post set. Now, there are a lot of schools of thought around, well, we need to train for multiple events, so it's okay if we train all breaststroke and then go freestyle, or go freestyle and then go breaststroke. Sure, every now and then it's good to have that level of confusion, but you're not gonna be able to count on performance in that specific example. If you do all freestyle and then the post set, you're gonna do sprints breaststroke, you can't expect performance, and if that's the only way you're training for fast breaststroke, you're not gonna be maximizing your full potential. So understanding the focus and the purpose of the workout is extremely important, and even more important is communicating that to your athletes. Now, your smarter athletes who are a little bit more engaged are going to be able to figure out what the point of the workout is, and they're gonna be able to see your plan as it progresses through the week and through the season. But if you don't have a good plan and you're not communicating it, then your athletes aren't gonna know what's coming, and they're not gonna be as invested in pushing themselves where you want them to push it because they don't understand why they're doing the workout in the first place. So as you can see, how to write a workout goes well beyond just actually writing the warm-up, preset, main set, post set, and cool down. It actually goes in line with the focus, the purpose, and being able to connect it all together, right? Being able to connect all of these things is extremely important. Now, another component that I want to talk about before showing you an example of a workout that applies everything we just talked about, it's the pre-workout and the post-workout. So if you notice, we have a preset and a post-set that centers around the main set, the juice, the whole point of what the workout is for. Before you do the workout and after you do the workout is just as important. So a lot of times coaches actually forget incorporating and making a plan for what you do before. Now this could be some dynamic stretching, some dryland training, even just having a conversation about what you're about to do. Getting the athletes activated mentally and physically, all of that happens before the actual workout starts. And then of course, the post-workout. And this is more than just doing a hot shower and hitting the cold tub. Maybe that's a part of it, and that's a great post-workout routine, but even just having a conversation with the athletes and reflecting back, hey, today was a great workout. I really like how you focused on X, Y, and Z. I like how you focused on your underwaters and you really pushed it on the main set. I know it wasn't exactly what you were hoping for on the post set when we timed the 50 off the block, but if you incorporate these next 3 things based on your workout, when we do this set again in 1 week, I'm gonna see a lot more fast swimming out of you. So having these conversations in the post-workout, again, it's not just physical, it's mental as well. And that is what a great coach is able to do. They're able to tie it all together so it's more than just a simple workout on a sheet of paper. So what I want to do now is actually show you a workout that has some of these elements laid out for you. So I just pulled up the MySwimPro app, and this is a workout that I just did myself on the Apple Watch. You can see it's only 1,000 yards. When I say only, that's because this principle applies at any distance level. So you need to make sure you're warming up appropriately. You want to make sure that whether the workout is 1,000 or 10,000 yards or meters, you are appropriately engaging the right muscle groups. So if we look at the workout itself, the warm up, actually before I go there, I almost forgot my own sauce here. What is the focus and purpose of the workout? How do I connect it all together? So if I were to educate my athlete and share this workout before I did it, what are we trying to do here? We're focusing on breaststroke, speed, and power. You may have guessed it, the name of the workout is speed, power, and agility, and that's because that's exactly what we're focusing on. Now this is connected to the overall season plan. We're gonna talk about season planning in just a little bit, but as a coach, you wanna think through, okay, we have a seasonal plan, then we're gonna zoom in on a specific workout that fits within the seasonal plan. So for me, I'm at a phase in my season, we're adding in a shorter breaststroke, speed and power and agility workout makes sense. It might not make sense to do this workout in 3 weeks from now or maybe 3 weeks ago, but in this moment it makes sense. So we have the warm up, freestyle, nice and easy, backstroke, nice and easy, breaststroke, nice and easy, butterfly, nice and easy. As you can see, I'm mixing in all the strokes because that's one of the best ways to warm up breaststroke. Now, if you notice in the main set, I don't have a preset, but I have 225s drill, which could have been broken out into its own preset. The reason why I put these 225s drill is because the main set is repeated 2 rounds. So I wanted to start each main set with that basically preset. So if I didn't have it like this, I would have put a 2 grouping around the preset and the main set. So I have my main set where I'm going breaststroke at a harder effort, followed by a parachute, right? That was my warm up, get the heart rate up, hit the parachute, max resistance, and then speed, 225s, repeat. Then in my cool down, because I did my warm up, I mixed in the IM, I'm training IM as well, not just breaststroke. I wanted to finish in my post set, which is basically the 425s IM order at a relatively strong pace on the 25. And then the cool down, a 50 perfect freestyle. So as you can see in this example, it's 1,000 yards. I don't have the preset and post set listed, but it was important to mention how all those components are still there. Now, in terms of the pre-workout and the post-workout, the pre-workout for me was actually a power session in the weight room. So I did some power squats, I did some cleans, and I did some box jumps to really get the muscles activated. Now, that was not written in this workout in the MySwim Pro app, but it was an important consideration in making this a successful training session. So in summary, it's really important to think when you're writing a workout, it's not just the workout itself, because it's incorporating what happens before the workout, after the workout, and how it fits in to your seasonal plan. I want to spend at least a little bit of time talking about equipment, because if you're leveraging the available tools in your toolkit, then equipment will be a big part of actually writing a workout and running a successful training session for your athletes. Now, I have listed out just a few of the most common pieces of equipment, sort of in order of importance that I recommend people actually use. So the first are a pair of fins, paddles, snorkel, buoy, resistance, could be parachute, power tower, a loofah, and there's also a kickboard, there's a tempo trainer. There's so many pieces of equipment, so many different types of fins, so many types of paddles, even snorkel and buoy, and it can be a little overwhelming. So how do you choose what the right piece of equipment is and where it should land in the workout? Should you use every piece of equipment every single day? Should you have training sessions with no equipment? These are all good questions, and the way that you actually answer these questions is thinking about your seasonal plan and what the purpose and focus is of that specific workout. So again, we're gonna talk about the seasonal planning in just a little bit, but before you get there, it's important to consider the 50% rule for using equipment. Now, this 50% rule simply states, on a weekly basis, all your training should have less than 50% of it done with equipment. So if you swim 10,000 meters in a single week, maybe 20,000, really doesn't matter the number. Whatever the number is, 50% of that or less should be done with the equipment. Now, you might have phases of a season where you actually exceed that or you're below that, but it's a generally good rule of thumb, so that way you're not overusing the equipment. And at the end of the day, you wanna be swimming all natural, because when it comes time to race, you have to do it without any of the toys. So toys are great. I love the engagement that you get both mentally and physically, but you have to control and moderate it. And the way that you choose which piece of equipment you use and how often you use it and where you put it in the workout comes down to the focus, and that comes down to where the workout is in the plan. So for example, in the workout that I just demonstrated, showing the breaststroke speed focus, it probably doesn't make sense to use a snorkel. It just doesn't fit. Even wearing fins, even though I put as the most important piece of equipment on the board, it still doesn't really fit the focus of that specific workout, and for me as an athlete, what my goals were. So you gotta keep all of these things in mind. Now, a few quick questions that I always get about different pieces of equipment and what you should use or not use. In terms of fins, you have two kinds. You have short fins and long fins. I'd put a mono fin in the long fin category. For swimming and even most underwater work, you wanna use some power fins that are on the shorter side. You really only use the longer fins for developing underwater butterfly kick rhythm. You can do that with the shorter fins, but if you really want to work on breath control and just being really consistent and maximum speed, then yeah, you can do it with long fins, but it's going to give you an unrealistic feeling of speed. So keep that in mind. Same as monofin. Monofin, of course, you're going to work on your underwaters. Maybe you do some drills like breaststroke pull, butterfly kick with the monofin, but even that can be done with the shorter fins, and that's what I recommend. In terms of paddles, there's so many sizes of paddles. If you're a beginner, you want to start with the smallest size paddle. They even have paddles, fingertip paddles. I love them for technique and sculling. They're designed for sculling, and that's how you can start. You can gradually work your way up in paddle size, and you can alternate the size of the paddle within the set. So maybe in the preset, you're going to use some bigger paddles, just kind of or actually in the preset, you'll use some smaller paddles, work your way up to bigger paddles, and then in the post set, you're going to have the small paddles because you're going for high tempo, or you're gonna have the big paddles because the focus is gonna be pure power. So the bigger the paddle, the more power you're gonna have. You're gonna cut out speed a little bit. The smaller the paddle, if you're developed and you've trained with them, you're gonna be able to move your arms faster and have a higher tempo because the paddle is smaller, less resistance. Similarly, when it comes to the buoy, you can swim with paddles without the buoy, or you can swim with paddles with the buoy. For kickboard, if you notice, I didn't even put it on the board because I believe most of the time you can actually achieve the same results, if not better, for developing kick and technique without the kickboard. You can kick in streamline. Remember, it's the 5th stroke. You want to develop technique that you're actually going to apply in real swimming, and a kickboard doesn't do that. It can actually ruin your body position. Remember this beautiful illustration? When you have a kickboard right over here, it's gonna sink the rest of the body down just so you can support. Remember, we don't want to do that. We want to train the athlete to swim fast. That's one of the most important things. So these are just a few different thoughts around equipment, and just remember the 50% rule. Now let's talk about one of the most fun and potentially complex and confusing parts of being a great coach, and that is creating a seasonal plan that allows your athletes to perform when it matters most, but also continue their swimming career beyond that specific season or period of their life. In order to do that, I have this beautiful illustration talking about seasonal planning, and we have some definitions here, and I have this timeline graph that we can use to dive into. So the first thing we need to understand is, what are the different cycles of a season? So we need to think, okay, what is the goal of this specific period of time? How long do we have? Most of the time, you have one season, and that season could be 1 year or 3 months, or in summer league swimming, maybe it's only 6 weeks. That is the entire season. You only have 6 weeks to work with. If you're dealing with a much higher level athlete with much bigger aspirations, you might be on a quad cycle where literally the season is 4 years. Now, for most of you watching this, you're probably thinking about it from a seasonal perspective that is only 3 or 4 months, maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's 1 year. So whatever the duration of the season is, that is our macro cycle. So the macro cycle, it's either the quad, or it's 1 year, or it's 6 months, or 4 months, or 3 months, or 6 weeks, whatever. That is the macro. Now within the macro, we're gonna split that up. This is our mesocycle. So we have the macro cycle, macro is short for macro cycle. Then we have the mesocycle, and the mesocycle is broken into 4 different parts, 4 different components. So we have phase 1, which is called general preparation. This is where we're really trying to get back into the fundamentals of swimming. All the stuff we talked about. We're thinking about technique, setting up a good routine, and gradually building our volume up and building our capacity. It doesn't mean you just swim a lot. It means you're building your ability, your athlete's ability to maintain training. Like you're training to train. And the reason why you're training to train in this general preparation period is because you're putting in the foundation for phase 2. Phase 2 is specific preparation. So if you have an athlete that's really focusing on the 200 IM, really in the general preparation, that's the benefit of being an individual medley swimmer. A lot of this should be IMX style training, meaning you're training for all the strokes. You're developing feel of the water. You're having a little bit of speed, but a little bit of capacity as well. So a better example would be the 50 freestyle. Now we're really starting to focus on that specific event, doing drills focused on freestyle, doing drills focused on breath control, capacity, speed, muscle activation, fast twitch, all that fun stuff. That's what happens in the specific preparation phase. And then as we move in to phase number 3, this is the competition phase and taper. So there's actually a few different phases within that, but this is where you basically have the final few days, weeks, and months, most likely weeks, before your competition. And the competition happens right here. This is where the competition is. And you might ask, well, why is phase 4 after the competition? It goes back to what I was saying just a few minutes ago. Your goal as a great coach is to get the athlete to perform when it matters most, which is right here, but then keep going to get into the next macro cycle. And this is called the transition phase. A lot of coaches, they completely forget about this and they basically start the season over every single time. But if you're coaching an athlete over a period of months, years, maybe decades, you've got to think about the longevity of your athlete and all of your athletes and making sure that they can consistently continue to improve, not get burned out, and enjoy the process. And that's what happens in the transition phase. This oftentimes is skipped over. Normally you'll have a big competition and then you take 2 weeks off or you take a week off. And actually you want to do aerobic training at this point right here. Because think about it. You have this great phase, general preparation, you're building an aerobic engine, you're building capacity. Then you start to do some more specific training. And then by the time you get to, let's call it midway, it's not midway, but let's call it midway, halfway through, you got 2 phases down, 2 to go. Now you're getting into the competition phase and taper. So now you are starting to back off of the thing that's gotten them fast in the first place. The reason why someone is fast here is not because of what they did right here, it's because of what they did in all of this phase 1 and 2 and 3 right here. What happens is you start to decrease volume and you're basically just not swimming as much capacity, speed or endurance. Then if you skip this phase, you basically start over from 0 when you get back to phase 1. And that's the importance of the transition phase, making sure you get back in the swing of things and then you take a break right here actually. This is the best place to take a break. You take a break after the transition phase so that way you earned your break and then you pick it back up. Now you can actually have multiple macro cycles within 1 year. Oftentimes teams will train and do a 3-month block or a 6-month block, and you might have 2 or 3 of these within a season. And your mid-season taper, your mid-season rest is basically right here, and you don't want to completely start over in the middle of the season, so you want to make sure you transition smoothly into it. Now let's go 1 layer deeper. So we got the macro cycle, mesocycle. Now we have the microcycle. This is what you do on a weekly basis. Now your microcycle could be a 3-day cycle. Most likely it's going to be a 7-day week. Most calendars are operating, Monday through Sunday or Sunday through Saturday, whatever. So you got to make sure you are aligning what you do in these weeks. You almost theme them within this greater mesocycle. And I think getting this transition smoothly is difficult because you have to put your ego aside of what you want to do because maybe, the team is not performing where you thought they would be. So you can't build out the whole week from the beginning of this, or build out the whole season from week number 1. So you need to be a little bit more gradual in how you think about the microcycle, which is a weekly basis, and what you do on the individual workout basis. That's what these lines are. This is day by day. So it wouldn't make sense to build out an entire seasonal plan all the way down to the daily workouts because you don't know what's required in phase 2, 3, and 4 of these mesocycles because you haven't seen what plays out over here. And that's the difference between a good coach and a great coach. A great coach is going to be able to see the vision, map it out, and build out a plan
but they're not gonna be married to it and they're not stuck to it because they're able to innovate as they go. And a good coach might write the workout 1 or 2 days in advance, or they might write this weekly plan out. A great coach is gonna have a pretty good idea and actually write it all down, but they're gonna be willing to change it and be flexible and not write the workout 5 minutes before your swimmers come onto the pool deck, because you've actually allocated the time and the routine to build this out. Now, this is really important because if you miss this, well, really it's gonna be difficult to get your athlete to perform when it matters, and then even more importantly, to do it consistently over time, because this is a never-ending cycle. If you think about a top athlete like a Michael Phelps, he's thinking about a quad plan. So there's like multiple mini versions of this within the quad plan. So you have the quad plan, which is every 4 years. Then within that, there's like a yearly plan. Within that, there are mid-season rest meets where you're looking for performance. So like variations of this will be built into the plan. You can use Excel to build this out. You can write it down. You can draw it on a board just like I did over here. But the important thing is that you're at least aware of it and you're thinking about it strategically, but don't overthink it to the point where you write out 300 workouts on one day. So you got to think about the future, but you also have to live in the moment, iterate as time goes on, and that's your job as a coach to make it happen. In addition to understanding how a workout is written and how a seasonal plan comes together, you got to consider the variables and the energy systems at play. Now, when you're making a workout or you're building a seasonal plan, you have more than just the actual workout itself to manipulate. In other words, you can have 2 workouts that look the same, but they're being executed completely differently. Here's an example. When it comes to variables, you have the ability to control the intensity and the effort level, meaning the energy systems that are being worked on. You can also play with the load density and the load volume. Now, if you're not familiar with any of these, we're going to talk about it, but basically your load density is how much swimming is happening in the period of time. So if you have a 1-hour workout, that workout could have been 2,000 meters or 4,000 meters. The 4,000 meter workout has a density that is 2 times higher, meaning you're swimming twice as much in the same period of time. Now, it doesn't mean you're swimming twice as fast. It just means, and maybe it does mean you're swimming a little bit faster, but it means you're getting more rest more frequently in the lower density. So as you progress through the season, for example, to be more specific, when you get into competition phase and taper, normally load density goes down. You basically are swimming less in the same amount of time. When you used to do a workout that was 2 hours and you swam 8,000 meters, maybe you have a workout that's still 2 hours, but you're only doing 4,000 meters. And then you chop down to a workout that's only 1 hour and you're swimming 2,000 meters. So you've basically decreased both the volume and the density. So the density is how much swimming is happening in a certain period of time, and the volume is how much distance is actually being swum. So in that last example, I gave you both of them. The density was going down and the volume was going down as well. And that's pretty typical when you think about it from a seasonal planning perspective. So the other thing you can control in a workout and in a season is the intensity. Now, when it comes to intensity, we're talking about effort levels, energy zones. Now, these are based on the human physiology, and you want to have the right balance here, regardless of what events that you really want your athletes to perform in. You have to have an understanding of all the variables at play. So for example, you have aerobic and you have anaerobic. These are 2 different energy systems of which how your body gets energy. So when you're training your athlete, if you only train in the aerobic zone, it's going to be very difficult to generate speed. If you want to swim fast, you have to train anaerobic. If you only train anaerobic, well, you're going to burn out and you're not going to have any capacity to swim over a period of time. To take it one step further, when we're thinking about aerobic, there's actually 4 levels to it. There's 7 levels in total, 4 of them are aerobic. You have REC, which is recovery, EN1, EN2, and EN3. On the anaerobic side, you have SP1, SP2, SP3. Now, when you look at an app like My Swim Pro, the way we have it broken out, it's actually color-coded when you're building a workout. And if we pull up my last workout that I just showed, you can see all the different effort levels corresponding to the color. Now, aerobic simply means endurance, threshold, and just easy casual swimming. Anaerobic is best average, race pace, and all-out sprinting. Having a good variation of all of these different things is what makes a dynamic workout and allows your athletes to excel, not only physically, but mentally as well.
In order to effectively communicate with your athletes, you have to have a high level of emotional intelligence. Now, there's this thing called IQ, your intelligence quotient, and an example would be to understand how long it takes to do 27 100s on the 115. Right? You're using math, and your intelligence will be able to compute that maybe in your head. Another example is being able to compute the top scoring lineup for your team without using a computer. You already know how the points can be broken up and which swimmers will be lined up here and there. Now, this is important, but it's really not the most important. There's this other concept called the EQ, the emotional quotient. And this is understanding the emotions and the desires of your athletes. And you can have a really high IQ, but a low EQ. And what we find is that the best communicators and the best coaches actually have a very high level of emotional intelligence. The ability to understand where an athlete is today, where they were yesterday, and where they want to go. And the other external factors that are impacting their behavior. And your ability to effectively communicate comes down to continuously improving this skill.
Great teachers have awesome communication skills. Communication is so important to not only being a great coach, but just being a great person. Now, there's this amazing book. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Highly recommend it if you haven't read it. And in this book, as the name of the title implies, How to Win Friends and Influence People, one of the most important things that was said that stood out with me, and I implore all coaches to really apply this principle, it's calling someone by their first name. Because if you think about your own first name, that is the thing that you immediately pay attention to. When someone says your first name, you immediately have a different connection with that individual. So as a coach, you should eventually learn your athletes' names, ideally before they even step onto the pool deck. So you already know all of your athletes, and instead of saying, hey, get in the pool, hey, Sarah, let's enter the water. And it comes across a lot differently. Instead of get in the pool without saying, hello, Sarah, how was your day? That interaction is completely different. And as a coach, it is your job, it is your duty, your obligation to get to know your athletes and call them by their first name. So one of the most important things that you can do, it sounds basic, is to just call your athletes by their first name and remind them that they are present, that you see them, that they're not invisible. Whether they're 7 years old or 17 years old or 70, just calling someone by their name can have a dramatic impact on how much they build trust with you and how you empathize with them. In addition to calling someone by their first name, you have to be an active listener. You need to have empathy with the person that you're trying to help. You need to make sure that they feel heard. And that ties in to just being a good human. I think a lot of the parts in this masterclass, when it comes to communication, these are just good people skills. And when you have good people skills, you build trust. And when you build trust, you're able to get someone to buy into the vision of what you're trying to get them to do, which is swim fast. They hired you, or they signed up for the team so that you can help them swim faster. And yeah, you'll take care of all the seasonal planning and you'll write the workouts, but it's a lot easier to get compliance and get the person bought into the shared vision if they actually trust you. And the way you build trust is by having great communication, calling them by the first name, active listening. And here's a fun one. You should watch yourself in action. I mean, you film your swimmers and you give them technical feedback. Have you ever actually filmed a training session? Not to put this on the internet or anything like that, just for your own use. And if you need to get permission, do all that stuff. But simply having a camera recording your interaction with your athletes, you'll pick up on a lot of things that you wouldn't have otherwise thought about. Your posture, the way that you stand. Do you look at your phone? Do you put your hands in your pockets? Do you look like you're about to fall asleep? How do you interact with the athletes? What does it look like when you're looking at one athlete? What's happening when you're not paying attention? When you're looking at one athlete, what are the other athletes doing? And reading the body language, not even just hearing it, just seeing it is enough to give you a lot of feedback on how you're communicating while you're on the pool deck. Now you can do this outside the pool deck in the weight room and whatever, but you really want to make sure that you're aware of how you come across when you communicate. There's a whole bunch of things packed into communication around your volume, your tone, the way you have intonations, whether you speak up or down, and all of these different things make you a good communicator. Having a dynamic range in your voice, the timing, the pitch, these are all things that you can actively work to improve. And if you want to improve them, well, you got to watch yourself in action.
When's the last time you got in a swimming pool? When's the last time you did a workout? When's the last time you did a 200 butterfly? You got to practice what you preach. If you're not in the water regularly, how can you expect to know that the drills that you're doing, that the techniques that you're teaching are actually effective? You need to feel at least some of the pain that your athletes are feeling, that experience of moving through the water. Because if you don't, you're gonna lose sight of the thing that you're actually doing. Maybe you don't have to swim a 200 butterfly to get a feel of what it's like to swim. And it doesn't matter if you've been swimming competitively your whole life, you swam through college, heck, you swam at the Olympics. It doesn't matter. If you're coaching, you need to be a role model. You need to set an example for your athletes, and you have to make sure you remember how to swim yourself to be able to teach the skills and to inspire your athletes to be the best version of themselves.
I want to empower you to be a great role model for your athletes. Now, if you are a swimmer growing up and your coach maybe never swam in the pool, you don't even know if your swim coach knew how to swim, right? I think that's a problem. And I want you to be, if that was you, I want you to be the swim coach that you never had. Be the leader, be the mentor, and lead from the front line. Now, what I want to talk about today is how to swim as a swim coach. I know this concept, it almost seems counterintuitive. Like, obviously the swim coach can swim, but are you? Are you actually swimming? Do you understand the drills? Do you feel the pain that your athletes are going through? So I have a few steps to help you in that journey. The first is you need to audit your time, right? This is the number one excuse that I hear why coaches don't swim. Even if they love the pool, they're like, you know what? I don't have any time. I'm at the pool all day long. I got XYZ. I got to take care of the laundry, pick up the kids, the wife, whatever. These are all just excuses. What you need to do is you need to audit your time. You need to think about, well, how, not just think, write it down. How am I spending my time? I have a whole other section about how you structure your day as a coach, but it starts with just understanding how do you currently spend your time. There's 24 hours in the day, and you're expecting your athletes to commit 2, maybe 3 hours to training. They probably go to school. Maybe they have a job. They're not mobile themselves. They depend on someone else, probably if they're a kid, to take them from point A to point B. They have meals. They have homework, right? What's your excuse? So let's think about your time, audit it, and we need to, instead of restructuring and squeezing something in, you probably need to remove something. Maybe it's spending 4 hours a day on TikTok. I don't know what that thing is, but audit your time, remove it, and replace TikTok with going to the pool or going to the weight room, whatever it is. So step number 1, audit your time. Number 2, find a pool. This is another one that is ironically something that coaches can't wrap their head around. A lot of coaches think, you know what? I can't swim at the pool because we rent it for the athletes, and I can't swim with my athletes because I have to coach. Makes a lot of sense. A lot of the time, you're gonna swim at a pool that you don't coach at. You're gonna get a gym membership. Yes, you might have to actually pay for a pool. And again, it comes down to like, I can't find a pool. No, there are plenty of pools where you live. You might have to actually pay for it. You might have to pay for a fitness membership. And this is an investment in yourself. This is an investment in being a great coach, being a great person, having a routine. Again, we'll talk about routine in a little bit. But step number 2 is just find a pool, and it might not be the pool that you currently coach at. And that's okay. Ideally, if you can squeeze in there, you live next to it, that's awesome. But for a lot of people, it's actually going to be a different pool than the one that you swim at. Now, the third step is to write down a SMART goal. Now, we talk about goals for our athletes. Let's talk about goals for yourself. A SMART goal is specific, measurable, attainable, it's relevant to you, and it's time-bound. So instead of saying, I want to get back into swimming, let's set a SMART goal around it. You want to swim twice per week for 30 minutes following a MySwimPro workout, maybe you're following a training plan, and you wanna get into that routine by next week. And in order to do that, you need to find the pool and sign up for the pool membership. And you will have audited your time so that way you can stick to a routine. That's step 4. Once you have a new routine, it's actually gonna be easy to get in the pool. Your swimmers are gonna feel more inspired by you if they know that you're swimming. Heck, you'll wanna get in and maybe do some relays with the kids or whoever the heck you're coaching. And it just builds trust. You build trust with yourself because you have more confidence. You understand the thing that you're coaching. I'm not saying that if you don't swim, you don't understand swimming, but you'll just understand it at such a higher level when you yourself are doing the thing that you're coaching.
The best coaches and athletes understand the power of delayed gratification. There's a big difference between making decisions for the short term and then the long term. And the best athletes and the best coaches have figured this out. Not only have they figured it out, but they continuously work on refining this skill. Because what happens is if you make decisions for a short-term gain, the consequences are amplified in the long run. And these second, third, fourth, and fifth order consequences are something that our minds as humans are actually not very good at comprehending. And the best coaches are able to effectively communicate with their athletes how to differentiate between the two and develop a really strong understanding of delayed gratification.
As a coach, delayed gratification is one of the most important life skills that you can instill in your athletes. Now, delayed gratification is important not only because of what it is, but because it molds people into who they will be in the future. Now, there's this really interesting study done at Stanford. It's called the Marshmallow Study. And what they did is they had children in a room and they gave them a marshmallow. And they told the child, if you don't eat the marshmallow, I'm gonna leave and come back. And if you didn't eat the marshmallow, I'll give you another marshmallow. So you can either eat the marshmallow now, or you can wait until I come back and I'll give you another one. And then they left the room and they just waited and watched to see what these children would do. And they noticed that some children went ahead and immediately gratified themselves and ate the yummy marshmallow, while other children actually waited, sat patiently until the person exhibiting the study came back and gave him another or her another marshmallow. And the interesting thing about this study is that they followed these people for the next decade. And what they found are the people, the children who grew up and they were able to delay that gratification of eating the marshmallow. They went on to perform better in their careers. They made more money. They had lower substance abuse problems, and they were more emotionally stable. So those principles of just delayed gratification, not having the easy win right there in front of you, being able to delay that, teaching those skills has a profound impact on what people will become and how they'll behave and become a member of society in the future. And that's why this is so important, this concept of delayed gratification. There's also first order and second order consequences. So here's how it relates directly to being a swim coach. Let's say you have an athlete who decides to skip a set in a workout. You have 10 100s and they just decide for whatever reason not to go. Maybe to be rebellious, to see what you'll do, or they're just tired and don't push themselves and maybe they could have made the interval, but whatever. They don't end up going on that set. So in the short run, you might think, no big deal. They didn't make the set or they skipped a repetition. Who cares? Let them go on with their life. Well, the second order consequence of that is they're probably gonna do it again. They're probably going to skip another repetition in the future, or they're gonna skip an entire set. You know what? I don't like this set. I'm just gonna get out and not do this set. And then the third order consequence, if this continues, you'll see what happens. You know what? I'm just not gonna do the whole workout at all. Why even go to the workout? And then the fourth order consequence happens in a more tangential way. Well, you know what? I'm experiencing some pain right now, or this is really tough. You know what? I think I'm gonna quit swimming. I have other things going on. I'm just not gonna do swimming. Swimming is too hard. I don't wanna do it. Or you know what? We're at a competition, something doesn't go my way. And the athlete doesn't know how to handle adversity because in the short run, they were gratifying themselves. Well, you know what? It's difficult. I'm just not gonna push myself. And so what happens is, for lack of a better word, you end up getting soft athletes. These people don't know how to push themselves. They don't know how to hold themselves accountable. And a lot of that comes back to just not understanding how to delay the gratification of today for the fruits of our labor tomorrow.
The best coaches and athletes are continuously learning. You have to be a sponge for acquiring new information. Knowledge is the currency of the world that we live in. And if you're not continuously picking up new skills, information, and surrounding yourself with others who are sharing that information, then you're gonna be left behind. Now, watching this masterclass is a great first step in that direction, but this isn't something that you do once. If you go and watch a bunch of YouTube videos in one sitting, that's not gonna be enough. You have to build a routine and habits of continuously acquiring information and leveling up your skills so that way you continue to develop and grow, not only as a coach, but also as a person.
The only thing stopping you from where you are today and where you wanna be is right up here. And that is the potential of a growth mindset. When you're thinking about improving yourself, taking it upon your own time to better yourself, to learn, to acquire new skills, that is how you level up in your craft, in your career, in swimming, in coaching. So whatever it is you want to do, wherever you want to go in the future, it really comes back to having a growth mindset. Now, some people are naturally more inclined to having this mindset and thinking about things in a certain way than others. A lot of this has to do with the environment that you were raised in and who you surround yourself with. So you got to make sure you're surrounding yourself with people who are positive, action-oriented. They're taking action to improve and learn. So when we think about a growth mindset, this really means taking on new techniques. As the sport of swimming evolves, new techniques have evolved with it. The underwater dolphin kick is now a major component of swimming. The way you do a breaststroke pullout is different. The way the strokes are actually swum has evolved over the last 10, 20, 30 years, and it will into the future as well. So as a coach, you want to put on your growth mindset thinking cap and always be receptive to these new techniques, because that can unlock a lot of potential for your athletes in the future. Another thing you want to think about are new drills. Not only are there new techniques, but new drills are constantly coming out of nowhere, what seems like. And you can be the one that innovates and creates these drills. Whether it's looking at online, the world of information has really democratized the sport of swimming, because now you can see drills that maybe you would have never have seen before. So being open-minded to seeing these new drills and even new pieces of equipment, whether it's using technology like a tempo trainer, or even things like a power tower, or different ways that you can actually analyze the technique underwater. You were not able to do these things just 15 years ago. Now it's easy to film someone. It's easy to go underwater and see what someone looks like and show the athlete right there on the pool deck, but you have to be receptive to these new innovations. Same as software. There are tools now like My Swim Pro that allow you to generate a workout based on inputs using artificial intelligence. Even me just saying that sounds sort of foreign because it's relatively new. But if you're closed-minded and you don't have a growth mindset, you're not going to be able to adopt these new ideas and these new technologies. And there's also new business models that are being formed. If you're an administrator, if you're the head coach, if you're responsible for making money for the team, there are different ways to fundraise and different membership models and different ways that you can acquire new customers to your team. You can acquire new athletes, you can retain new athletes, and communicate with your athletes in new and exciting ways. But if you don't have a growth mindset, you're not going to be as receptive and you're going to be a laggard on the adoption curve. So you don't have to be the first mover, but at least if you have the growth mindset, you're going to position yourself to better access this new information as it comes.
You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And this can be in both the real world, the physical world that we live in, and also the digital world. So think to yourself, who are you surrounding yourself with? Both in your personal life as well as professionally. Who are the coaches that you spend the most time with? Who are you learning from? Because at the end of the day, you can have your beliefs and your knowledge, but it's who you're surrounding yourself with that will compound over time. You truly have to find your tribe. You have to actively seek out the people that you will surround yourself with, not only in the physical world, but also in the digital world. And no one is going to do this for you. You have to step up, take initiative, and take action. Being a swim coach is one of the best jobs in the world. You get to share knowledge with the next generation, empower swimmers to be their best, and help people reach their goals. On the flip side, you have to work long hours, take on stress 24/7, deal with helicopter parents, and you might not know what the future of your career looks like. Even with the challenges you face, you stick with it. You stick with it because you know how amazing it feels to have your swimmers drop time, learn new skills, and see the smile on their face when they finish to the wall. Sometimes as a coach, you can be so caught up in writing the swim workouts and the day-to-day operations of a team that you forget to invest in the one thing that allows you to do what you love: your knowledge. The thing that you do as a coach is share your knowledge. So if you want to level up your coaching career, start a new club, or just increase the impact you have on your own swimmers, then you need to increase your knowledge and level up your skills. Knowledge is power, and in today's world, if you're not continuously investing in your education and your knowledge, you're gonna be left behind. If you wanna be a better coach, then you need to surround yourself with the best coaches who wanna see you succeed. You need a community that's going to support you in reaching your goals. Over the last decade, I've helped thousands of swimmers and coaches just like you improve their knowledge and learn skills to advance both in the pool and on the pool deck. It's why I created My Swim Pro, written multiple books, produced thousands of videos, and mission is to help you reach your full coaching potential. Coaches are not only continuously seeking knowledge, but they're also sharing it with others. Something amazing happens when you prepare to teach someone else a specific skill. The act of preparing the skill and then actually teaching someone else increases your own abilities in that specific skill. It's sort of like you're learning by teaching other people, and you're accelerating your own knowledge development. And this amazing phenomenon is called the protege effect. When you help other people learn a new skill, you yourself reinforce your understanding of that skill. Essentially, you level up your own education by educating others. And this is remarkable, and it's been studied time and time again. Now, if you're actively teaching, you probably know this from experience. Preparing to teach, teaching, and even pretending to teach help you yourself level up your skills in that specific area. And that is what's known as the protege effect. Yes, it's a remarkable thing that happens, and you can even see it with your own athletes. If you have your athletes get more ownership and actually get involved in helping other athletes, whether you're coaching masters, one-on-one, or children, literally having one swimmer explain the set to another, under your supervision of course, can be really powerful to getting your athletes to have buy-in and understanding, and they feel more empowered to teach other people. Again, they don't have to teach the entire curriculum. They're not replacing you as a coach, but it's amazing what can happen if you position it so that way you can create an environment where your athletes can coach and teach other athletes. This learning process is something that's done in all fields of education, and it's something you should really consider incorporating as a coach. And the same principle applies for you as a coach, coaching other coaches. Even for me right now, creating this masterclass and all this information, it's just reinforcing and it's helping me learn by helping you learn. So this is something that you really want to figure out how you can incorporate for yourself as a coach, positioning yourself as a mentor, as an educator to teach other people besides your swimmers, and then having your swimmers teach other swimmers. And then everyone benefits and everyone learns together. And it's really an incredible thing. The people who perform at the absolute highest level all share one thing in common: self-discipline. Whether it's in athletics, in coaching, in business, and in life, The people who have the best self-discipline are the ones who excel, because that self-discipline and that consistency with your daily routine, the things that you do on a daily basis, is what compounds in the long run. So if you're thinking about yourself as a coach, you have to think about your daily routine. What time are you waking up every day? What time are you going to sleep? When are you eating? When are you working out? When are you actually writing the workouts for your team? When are you doing your administrative tasks? And these things all matter. They matter because if you have the consistency and the self-discipline to do them every single day, to hold yourself accountable, that is how you see the results. I know this is difficult to think about because this is not as simple as, well, just tell me what to do. You have to find the routine that works for you, and everyone's different. But the most common trait across everyone, in every industry, from the history of time, is the self-discipline that's required to stay consistent to that routine, whatever it is. I want to spend a few minutes in this masterclass just to talk about the importance of self-discipline. Really holding yourself accountable to your own agenda, to your own goals, the things that you need to do to be the best coach possible. Thinking about self-discipline, this is something that extends well beyond the pool deck. It's how you structure your day. So what you need to do, you need to actually audit how you spend your time. Maybe you have a piece of paper or a calendar and you write down every 30 minutes what your day looks like. And this starts from what time you go to sleep to when you wake up, eat breakfast, take the kids to school, do your own workout. When are you writing the workouts? When are you thinking about your seasonal plan at a high level? And you need to just vision board, what does the future look like? And what are you doing right now on a day-to-day basis, on an hour-to-hour basis, and a minute-by-minute business? Now, this is really a concept in productivity, and I like this principle, death by 1,000 cuts. So when you see people who are able to execute a lot, they're able to do so much, how do they have time to do it? How do they have time to write all these swim workouts, to come to practice with a ton of energy? They work out themselves, they have another job, they have a family, and they seem to do it all. How are they so productive? And when we think about this principle of death by 1,000 cuts, it's not one thing that's getting in your way to be productive. It's a lot of little things that are just distracting you. So you can do the activity where you audit your time, but you might not catch a lot of these little things. So these could be push notifications that you're getting on your phone. It could be time commitments that randomly pop up. Preparing your food, ordering your food, cooking, laundry. There's a lot of different things that pop up frequently, and these small little things actually add up pretty significantly over time. Now, you might be able to just get rid of some of these things. So if you notice that you get a push notification every 20 seconds and that forces you back into your phone and you never get anything done, a quick fix is you turn off a lot of those push notifications and maybe you uninstall some of those apps. Some other things you might not be able to do as well. So for example, food. You gotta eat, you gotta cook your food or order food, however you do that. But do you have to do that every few hours? So if you spend a lot of time thinking about what you're gonna eat, how you're gonna order it, preparing the food, maybe there are some, you still have to eat, but maybe there are some ways that you can actually manage your schedule so you don't have to make those decisions every few hours and spend as much time. So one easy solution to that, if you're not gonna hire a private chef, is to just meal prep your food. So you already know at the beginning of the week what you're going to eat, when you're gonna eat, and how you're gonna get it. And this can eliminate a lot of the distraction. These are all those little cuts that are gonna kill your productivity. When you're trying to coach, you really have to focus your time. That is the one asset that you can't get any more of. You can certainly make more money doing other things, but when it comes to your time, you have to protect it. So when you allocate time in your day to write the workouts, to do high-level thinking of what the seasonal plan is going to look like, what the meet lineup is going to be, this is deep work. This is potentially the most important work that you can do. So you have to make sure you protect your time so that way people are not interfering with the most valuable thing that you have, which is your time. So you want to sit back, audit your time, think about how you're spending it on a minute-by-minute basis, eliminate the distractions, and all of this comes back to self-discipline.
It takes discipline to do this. You ask it out of your athletes, and I'm just asking you to do it yourself.
As a role model, your job as coach goes well beyond teaching just swimming. You have to teach all the attributes that go into fostering a well-rounded athlete, a well-rounded human being. You're teaching hard work, self-reliancy, resiliency, the ability to push through when something is difficult, having a growth mindset, being accountable for the work that they put in, and being able to see the short term versus the long term, the concept of delayed gratification. You can't think of your job as just a swim coach because you're teaching all these other things, including time management and goal setting. Remember, as a coach, you are the role model. You're creating a holistic human being.
As a coach, you have the incredible honor and responsibility of teaching more than just swimming. Yeah, the athlete came to you so that you can make them a better swimmer. But you also have an obligation, and I believe a responsibility, to teach more than just swimming. Now that could be hard work. These are principles that you gotta push yourself. It's not going to be easy, and you are there as the motivational support, the enthusiasm, and you empower the athlete to work hard. You're teaching dedication, how you commit to a craft, how you come in day after day when it's tiring. When you're not sure if what you're doing is working, you instill the confidence so that they can become dedicated, so they can build their own routines. This is something that you're teaching that extends well beyond swimming into their life. Communication, how to communicate your goals, your aspirations, your frustrations. These are principles that apply well beyond swimming. And whether you're coaching an athlete who's 15 or 55, there's always room to improve in communication. And by helping them improve their communication, helping your athlete improve, you actually improve your communication as well. And one of the huge benefits of being a coach, being in that position, you have the opportunity and the responsibility to continue refining your skills and teaching those skills as well. You're also teaching self-reliance. The athlete, especially if they're younger, they're on their own at the pool. Their parents aren't there, their guardian isn't there. It's just you and them. And you are teaching them how to build the skills and the confidence to be self-reliant, to be able to fend for themselves. When things are challenging, feeling that they are empowered themselves to take action and take initiative for what they want to achieve. This is one of the most important skills, especially if you're teaching someone young. If you're coaching a younger athlete, you have to instill these principles of self-reliance, of resiliency. These things don't happen on their own. And yes, the parent's job is to teach these skills, but you're not their parent. In some ways, it's even more important for you to be that figure that's not their parental guardian and actually teach them these skills. You're also teaching them time management. You're teaching goal setting, and again, how to communicate the goals. And one of the most important things that you can teach as a coach is the principle of delayed gratification.
The difference between a good coach and a great coach comes down to just one thing: ego. A good coach is able to write the workouts, motivate swimmers, and empower people to be the best version of themselves, both in and out of the water. That's what a good coach does. A great coach is able to meet the athlete where they are today. This comes back to emotional intelligence. It's not enough to write the greatest workout of all time if your swimmer is on the side of the pool crying. Now, I know that's an extreme example, but it comes down to having the right level of emotional intelligence to understand what challenges the athlete is facing today, where they were yesterday, and where they want to go in the future. This is the fundamental difference between being a good coach and a great coach. A great coach is able to remove their ego from the equation. It's okay if you're not able to do the workout that you plan. It's okay if the results do not go as planned. But your stubbornness to not adapt and mold to the realities of where the athlete is today and where they want to go in the future is one of the biggest differences that's holding back a great coach, that's holding back a good coach from being a great coach. If you want to be a great coach, then you need to surround yourself with other people who are trying to do just that. You have to find your community, build your tribe, and surround yourself with those 5 people who are aligned with the same goals that you have. You're all moving in the same direction, and that's one of the most powerful things about the day and age that we live in today. You are not restricted by where you live. You can build these relationships and foster this community in the digital world as well as the physical world. If you're serious about taking your coaching career to the next level and you made it this far into the video, then I have a special gift for you. Today, you can join the Swim Coach Academy at a special rate link down below, because over time, as we add curriculum, add coaches, and the community grows, we'll continue to increase the price. So lock in the price today at the special rate, and you can ensure that your swim coaching career will continue to develop now and into the future. So if you want to be a part of weekly group coaching calls, network with the best coaches, speak with them on a one-on-one basis, including myself, and access the curriculum that will continue to develop over time, then join the Swim Coach Academy at the special rate. I'll see you in there, and happy swimming.